Hello, and welcome to Amy's Opinions. I'm here today with my beautiful daughter Maggie,
Hi.
and today we want to discuss our opinions on customer service.
Yep. Now, my mom and I both work in customer service. I work in food.
And I work in healthcare. So today we want to talk about why customer service is so important in the workplace. You know, for me, it's putting people first. I have to. If we're going to save lives, we have to put the person in the bed and their families first. For Maggie, it's a little bit different because she works in food, but she's still putting the people first because she's taking their orders and she's
Yeah.
guiding them.
And, we have to look at the orders very carefully because we don't want to give someone something that they might be allergic to.
Correct. Another thing that is important in customer service is problem solving. Things don't always go the way you expect them to go, or the way the customer expects them to go, even though this way is supposed to go for your company or you.
Yeah, accidentally spilling a cup with liquid into the ice box was not great.
No. And then finally is we're going to discuss personal and professional ethics of customer service. So I want to start off because Maggie works with a more diverse group of people in her with dealing with food, talking about the issues that she has being professional with some of the more difficult customers that people seem to feel they have to be.
Yeah. So where I work at my last job, because I work in have just worked in food for my entire time that I've been working. I was working the closing shift. This guy comes in, and I had my hair in pigtails, and it was kind of covering my ears a bit. But it wasn't like taking away from my ability to hear what people were saying, so long as they talked at a normal volume. And this guy, he came in and he started whispering his order at me. And we were about to close too, so I'm tired from all that. I'm ready to go home. And he's just whispering his order at me. And when I ask him, hey, would you mind, repeating that, speaking up a bit? And this is like the third or fourth time that I've asked him to speak a little bit louder because he keeps whispering it at me. He finally just looks at me and starts going, oh, you're so stupid. You must be slow. Like, maybe if your hair wasn't in front of your ears, you'd be able to hear what I was saying. And he starts getting more and more aggressive to the point where my coworker, who I was working with at the time, did not leave me alone behind counter until the guy left where we were working, simply because she didn't trust that he wasn't going to just go.
So, what makes you feel like this guy could have been a physical threat?
The way that he was getting more like leaning over the counter, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like trying to get up in my face.
Okay.
And he was taller and bigger than me too. So that,
Have you seen a trend? Because I've seen a trend where people are getting more violent with the people who are supposed to be helping them.
yeah, I've definitely, like, you'll see videos of that online all the time where, you know, in Florida, someone made a video of throwing an alligator through a drive-through window.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if that was taken from a movie or CGI, but I mean, it's Florida, anything can happen there.
Okay. I've seen a trend where, you know, people will sit there and video other people being bad
Yeah.
instead of trying to intervene and help the person who's being threatened or yelled at or, you know, calm down the situation, de escalate.
Yeah.
But more and more people are just filming bad behavior and they're posting it. And to me, that seems like it's harming customer service because, one, either the customers feel entitled that this is okay to do because it's all over media.
Yeah. Like, there was a prank TikToker who would walk behind the counter in fast food places and like throw ice in there. Gosh, I forgot what it's called, but it's where you put the fries in.
In the fryer.
Fryer, yeah. Throw ice in the fryer, throw the food that they had prepared and were about to hand out on the floor, all this and that.
And this person didn't get arrested.
he eventually did when he sprayed bug spray on produce at another store.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we
And
have people who are like us who are doing social media things,
yeah,
misbehaving, and teaching the younger generation
that it's
who
okay.
exactly.
Because one thing too I noticed before I went off to school was that middle schoolers and high schoolers seemed to be the most entitled when it came to that. Like one person openly bragged about how they stole a classmate's gift card to our store, and that's how they were able to buy our product, was that they stole it from another kid, and they
Wow.
didn't see anything wrong with that. Whereas like really little kids, they're still saying please and thank you. And to me, I'm like, why is a little kid more polite and more courteous than someone who's older?
That's a good point. Now, back in my day, we had what was called the soccer mom. So the soccer mom, drove the big SUVs, brought all the snacks, but they seem to have progressed to what we call now the Karens of customer service, who I want to talk to your manager. If I don't get my way, it's my way or the highway. I'm going to publish all over media about how horrible you are because you're not giving in to me, and I'm going to try to bully my way into getting what I want.
Right.
And I think social media has empowered these people to not realize that the person who's serving them is a person too.
Yeah.
They have feelings, they have thoughts, they're doing their job. They are doing the best that they can, but they're not treating them the way they want to be treated.
Like another thing that I've noticed is that you wouldn't say what you say to me when I'm behind the counter if I wasn't working. And when I'm working, that's when people will be openly rude to me because I can't do what they want me to do because it's just against our policy. And we have signs up that state what that policy is. And they get mad at me because I'm not going to override it and risk my job. And then they throw a fit. And to me, I'm just thinking, if I wasn't behind this counter and if I wasn't working, you would not say that to me. But because I'm working and I have to, you know, or at least I'm supposed to be polite to the customer regardless of how they're treating me, you think that you can get away with more. Whereas if we're out in public and I can actually defend myself more, you're not going to say that to me. It's like, you need to treat me how you want to be treated. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Golden rule. We are people too. And I understand there are people who work in customer service who are rude to you, who probably shouldn't be working customer service.
Well, I have a good example for that.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you just need to look at it. Would I say this to that? Would I act like this to this person if they were not working? And if that answer is no, then you really should not be treating a person rudely just because they're working.
But if that answer is yes, you might need more training on how to deal with the public.
Yeah.
For instance, back when COVID first happened and we were having the shortages of the meat and we were having shortages of, toilet paper and things like that, and we were really titrating how much you could get. I went to the store and I was going to make pasties. And for those of you who don't know, pasties is a homemade, like a pocket pie that has meat, potatoes, and onions in it. And I was picking up the pre-chopped meat because I was tired.
It felt like pasty, but not.
Another subject, Maggie, another subject. Anyways, I usually use about a pound of meat. And they only had the meat in a little more than a quarter pound. So I use a pound to a pound and a half. So I picked up 4 packages. It wasn't labeled that it was buy 2 only. That was the limit 2. And when I went to the checkout, the cashier shamed me. She publicly shamed me. She said, "Ma'am, you're not supposed to have this. You're only supposed to have two." I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that. Let me put these, I can put these two back. I can go to another store, pick up another two. I'm just trying to make this food for my kids and my family because we can eat off this for a week. But, if I'm only allowed to buy two here, that's fine. Let me put it back." And she goes, "No, we're going to get to the bottom of this." Then she turns around to the cashier behind her and starts publicly shaming me. We're in a pandemic, and look at this woman. She's here and she's trying to buy 4 packages of meat, blah 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 blah, while she's getting on the phone with the meat department. While she's waiting to talk to the manager of the meat department, she turns to the customer behind me and says, "I'm so sorry we have to wait, but this woman here is trying to buy more than she's allowed." Not once did I say I need all 4 packages. I said, "I'm so sorry, I'll go ahead and put back two and I can keep going on. I can go to another store if I need to buy more. I'll do whatever I need to do." I was not trying to create problems. I actually told her to go ahead and put back two of the packages. That was fine. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Well, the manager of the meat department called back and said, "No, we're not limiting this meat. This is not a meat that we're limiting. She's okay to buy 4." So not only did she shame me, but when she sold me all 4 packages, which I was at that time getting ready just to walk out, I'm going to be honest, because she was over the top being rude on something that I was not trying to be wrong.
Just add in real quick before the next point. Keep in mind that this is also before the mask mandates were officially mandated. So
yeah, and she was shaming me because I wasn't wearing a mask. I wasn't sick. I went early in the morning when the grocery store wasn't crowded, and I hadn't worn a mask. So I bought my groceries. I just went ahead and paid, came home, felt horrible about it. I have not gone back to that store because of such poor customer service. When you have poor customer service, people tend not to go back and you lose customers. But these younger generation, and I'm not saying you, Maggie, by all means, because I would have your behind if I thought you're being rude to people.
yeah.
But this younger generation, I don't know if it's because of all the Karens that have been posted on social media, or the fact that anymore when someone acts out, everyone takes out their phones, and so they want to be, the next big star. I don't know if that's what's going on, but it seems like there's a trend also where people are feeling like, hey, if you're going to be rude to me, I'm going to give it right back. Like we lose that professionalism instead of trying to de-escalate, problem solve, and see what we can do to calm down the situation to give the customer what they want. Now we just go straight to, well, I don't want to deal with you because you're being a jerk to me. Goodbye.
Yeah, and one thing I will say is I understand it is very difficult not to give it right back when a customer is being rude. And why I feel myself starting to get to that point, I will ask one of my coworkers who's been working at another station a little bit long, because we do have this flexibility where I work. Hey, do you want to take over on register for me? Because I know it's unfair to a customer if I'm acting rude because I'm having several bad experiences coming through the line while I'm on register. And while I'm still trying to learn that, how to keep that professional behavior, I'd rather have somebody who's worked there longer and it's more professional than I am while I'm still learning.
So you take yourself out of the situation.
Yes.
And give yourself a break before you go back into the situation. That's what I'm hearing. Okay. Now,
but that's just because I have the option to do so. If I didn't have the option to do so, I would have to find a way around it, definitely. But I understand because, where I go to school, we have meal plans and all this and that, and only a few restaurants on campus don't follow the meal plan. Well, part of our meal plan is you can only get certain items within that meal plan, anything extra you have to pay for separately. And we have signs up everywhere like, hey, this is what's in the meal plan, this is what you can get. And we'll have people who will throw fits when I tell them, okay, well, are you okay paying for this stuff separately because you know it's not part of the meal plan? And it's part of the reason why and I know it's kind of rude, but like before I start writing things down, I always ask people, hey, and how are you going to pay today? Because, you know, it just gets frustrating when they're like, oh, I'm going to do it like this. And then you have to explain, okay. Like I've had customers who will get so frustrated, they'll be like, well, no, I don't want that. I want this instead, so I can just use what's part of my meal plan. And to me, because I have to write on stuff, and I've already had this stuff written up, it's very frustrating because I don't like wasting stuff, and now I have to waste it because everything's already written on it and I can't just reuse it, kind of thing.
So back in my day, because again, Maggie loves it when I say that. Back in my day, the only signs you would see in anywhere that offered customer service and like food restaurants was no shirt, no shoes, no service.
Yeah.
Period. We're seeing a lot more businesses who are putting up signs like, hey, no checks because people bounce checks, no, cash only, or even people who are aggressive will be asked to leave.
Yeah.
And I get your frustration, and I like the way that you're trying to problem solve for both you and your customers that, hey, I just want to make sure you're clear on the meal plan. Are you paying for all your extra stuff out of pocket? Because before we get too involved, I don't want to create any more frustrations. That's a good way of problem solving.
Yeah. And also, like, when I've had several rude customers after the other, I'll try to remove myself from that situation, take a quick breather because I know when you have so many people who are just being rude to you all the time, it's hard not to say something back. It's hard not to go, oh, well, what about X, Y, and Z?
Right.
Stuff like that.
Because what you put out into the universe is what you get back sometimes. And so people, when they put out a lot of negativity, you soak that up. And when you're around negative people, you tend to act more negative yourself. Yeah. So it's a good idea that if you can, you take a break and you regroup and you put positivity out. Now let's talk about tips for food workers. This is a hot button because it used to be back in my day, if you tipped, you tip for good service. Mm-hmm. So when I say good service, when my husband and I were first married, one of the ways we chose if we had good service at a restaurant was how many times our water glasses got filled. Did they check back with us? Did they fill? Not to the point where they were interrupting our date or our meal, but did they check back with us? Were they making sure that we were good? And then we would tip roughly between 12 to 15%. We even had a tipping calculator. Now they progress where they put down the tips. It used to be 15, 17, and 20. Now it's 20, 25, and 30% on some receipts. Some people say, hey, you have to go into it. And now fast food restaurants or drive-thrus are asking if you want a tip. Yeah. Is tipping getting out of hand?
I think it is, especially, like, I understand at sit-down restaurants, and definitely with inflation, I get why they're trying to raise the amount, like, how much you tip. But now if you get looked at like you're a horrible person if you don't tip at minimum 20%, and even then people they take offense to 20%, like, oh, is my service just not that good, kind of thing. And at drive-thrus, I mean, I don't think you should have to tip at drive-thru restaurants because most of the time you're making, depending on your state's minimum wage, you're either making over or at minimum wage. Like North Carolina minimum wage is like 7 something, and I make over minimum wage. So I'm at least making a wage that where I'm at, I can at least handle my necessities. But I also live in a dorm, so.
Now, I will be honest. I tip better for good customer service. So I have seen a lot of things on social media where, especially around the holidays, people say, oh, the tip was XYZ, and people get mad. Well, if you can't leave a tip, afford to leave a tip, why are you going out to eat? Sometimes people scrimp and save, or they have other bills that they have to pay, but they're celebrating something and they're going out to eat to celebrate. They may not have the money to leave a bigger tip that you think they deserve. They may leave a tip that they can afford. Or they just may say that they're like me, hey, I didn't get good service, I'm not going to leave a good tip.
Yeah, and I think you should definitely look at the service you're getting. For one of my friends' birthday, we went to a restaurant and we were the only people there, and it took us almost an hour and a half to get our food, and when we did, it was cold. It wasn't really hot, and I like I don't really blame the waiters on that one too much, but at the same time, whenever somebody suggests going there, I'm like, no, I don't think
Let's
that's
go
a good
somewhere
idea.
else.
Yeah.
Another thing I've noticed with customer service is the cell phone. And everyone, when I mean everyone, everyone's on their cell phones. I'll go into a store and I'll need help. And I'll see 3 or 4 people, and they're either talking about their vacations or their dates or their plans, or they're on their cell phones. They're not helping the customers. When that happens, I'll walk right out that store. I'll go somewhere else. If I can find a competitor, I'll go to a competitor because the service there is so bad because everyone's addicted to their cell phones. And if you're serving the public, that cell phone should be put up because you're there to do a job. You're not there to discuss what you're going to do after work when you're on the clock. You're not there to look up plans on your phones or movies or things like that. To me, that's poor customer service.
Yeah, and a lot of places they have a designated break room for you to go into when you're on break, so that way you're not still on the floor and customers don't think that you're like still on the clock or still working.
Now, like when we were getting ready to set up this podcast and we're
Right.
brand new, we don't know what we're doing.
We got excellent customer service.
We did. We had the waitress at the restaurant when we were talking about our ideas gave us feedback. Then we went to a computer store, and that woman was so happy to help us. They were really busy, and so we had to wait for her help, which is fine. I get that. There was no one on their cell phones. There was no cluster of employees who were talking about their plans.
Plus, the store was within like an hour of closing, so they weren't like fully staffed either. They
Right.
were with their closing staff.
And the only reason why we didn't buy it that night was because my husband said, hey, you guys need to do a little bit more research. But then what did we do? We went back the next day and we bought from that store. We did our research, we got our plan, and we bought from the store because we had good customer service. And that's something that I don't think people get trained on, is how to do good quality customer service.
Yeah.
It's just kind of expected that you're going to kind of know what to do. You'll get a couple of classes on how to handle difficult people, maybe if you're lucky, as part of your training, but otherwise you're just kind of thrown out there.
Yeah, like when I was learning, I just got a simulation where it gave me like 5 different scenarios and they were asking me how I'd help the customer. But in those scenarios, it wasn't like, what do you do if a customer's being rude or yelling at you? It was, oh, well, this customer needs help finding meat. How are you going to help them? That sort of thing. It wasn't, this customer is yelling at you for something you didn't do. They're demanding a refund for something that you didn't sell them. How are you going to handle that situation?
Right. And I think there should be more training for people who work customer service, how to deal with it. But on the other hand, I think if you have a customer that is being aggressive, whether verbally aggressive or physically aggressive, or you fear that you're going to get hurt or something is going to escalate out of your control, I feel that the person who is in customer service should have the right to say, I refuse to serve you. You need to leave. You need to get under control, be able to handle your emotions before we can do this.
Yeah, and definitely knowing that we do need to have like more training on that, I definitely would say. And I think that everyone should at least work one retail and one fast food job. Like either retail or fast food, because that's when people, at least that I've noticed, are more like that's where you get most of the videos from, is fast food places and retail places. Like, understand how to deal with customers, but also learn if a customer's treating you like that and you don't like it, why are you going to another store and treating somebody else like that who's working there? Like,
Right. So
definitely working in customer service and stuff, I'm more appreciative of the people who work in customer service, because I understand what it's like to deal with not so pleasant customers, but also I understand that frustration. And like, if they're taking a while to do something, I'm like, oh no, it's not that big of a deal. They're busy. I'm not gonna cause a scene. Or, oh, they look a little understaffed. I'm not gonna be too frustrated with them.
So, in your opinion regarding customer service, do you feel like everyone should have some sort of background in customer service, whether they work a part-time job or something at least once in their life, so they can kind of understand how things are going?
Yes, and definitely I do believe that, because I feel that it could potentially decrease the Karens and stuff if they had to deal with people who were like them.
Okay, so we're going to wrap this up now because we're kind of to our time. Final opinions.
I think that everyone should work customer service, whether it be retail or fast food, at least once in their life. And I think that we need to always remember that golden rule: treat others the way that you want to be treated.
And I agree. I think everyone should be aware of their surroundings and stop trying to become internet sensations by provoking or filming things, and be polite and courteous. We need more people to be polite and courteous when they're out and about shopping.
Yep.
All right, so that is it for Amy's opinions. Thank you so much for coming and joining us, and we will see you later. And if you have an opinion, put it down and we'll talk about it.
Bye.
Bye.